Welcome to Network Today. I'm Sheryl Powers.
I'm Rob Bliss.
And we're here to take you from meeting people to
making money.
That's exactly right. I want to get there fast, and I'm going to do it faster after we talk about this episode and I implement what this episode is about, which is resiliency.
That's such a tough word, Sheryl. And you know what? I can't even spell the darn thing.
You're like, the look on your face, Rob, when I said I want to do an episode on resiliency, it's like...
Well, I had to go to the dictionary first to find out what it meant. But boy, now that I know, it is a great word, and we got to talk about this.
Yeah, it is a great word. And we had a great guest that I actually think helped kind of expand our mindset in regards to how resiliency is so imperative in the networking process. So if you are new to Network Today, please go back, review the other episodes. I think we're on episode 19 now.
Yeah.
So you got some catching up to do, but you can listen to it just via audio, or you can actually watch the video. We've got a lot of different platforms. And be sure and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that little subscribe button on the homepage, so you can get all the cool stuff that we're going to talk about here. So we want to make sure that your time is well spent.
Right.
So we're going to talk about resiliency. We're going to talk about our grand slams, which are our success stories. We're going to talk to our guest, which you'll love, one of my new BFFs. And then we're going to leave you with some action items.
Absolutely.
Some good takeaways. So can I start with the definition?
Yes, please do. I need to learn it.
All right. Before I give the definition, according to Webster or Oxford, I think in this case, what did you think resiliency meant?
Well, it took me time to really think about it. It's a tough word, but it's kind of what I thought about is adjusting to difficult times.
Okay.
Hardships that come into your kind of everyday life.
Pivoting.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Doing a workaround when we need to. Flexibility, perhaps. Well, here's what the dictionary says. It's the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. Mm-hmm. It's toughness. I liked that. I really like that word. And the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape. Here's my word of the week. Elasticity.
Ooh, good word.
So sometimes we get stretched beyond our limit. What I think yours was today, right? So like, woo.
Well, I like how,
and you snap back into shape. All right, we're gonna do this thing.
But I like how you earlier said toughness, because it really, resiliency is something that we're just going to encounter every day of our lives, and so it's not going away.
Right.
So we've got to be proactive. We got to develop that toughness.
Husband always says this about his Sooners, Boomer Sooner, right? He's always saying, bend, don't break, bend, don't break. And I think that's the toughness that you're referring to, because when you're resilient, it means that you can be stretched to, your limit, but then you get back into shape, get back on task, back what you're built for, right? So because we're never going to be static. We're always going to be changing.
Absolutely. And it's an important part of networking, because, just think about all the disappointments, all the frustrations that we experience every day through our networking circles.
That's exactly right. And if you recall, when we were kind of going through the topics and discussing, hey, these are the things I think we should touch on. The reason resilience came up is because I think that particular week, if I recall right, was just a tough week, right? And maybe it was disappointments in networking partners not following up, or go figure, or whatever other disappointments were happening. And it's like, you can't let that stuff bury you. I mean, you could let it mound up over your head so you're just smothered and you're out, right? Hey, I'm done with networking. And what do you say? I'm mad as, and I'm not going to network anymore.
Well, it goes back to the basic principles of Napoleon Hill, where, it's success through a positive mental attitude. We've got to maintain that through our networking and through resiliency.
Yeah, and I think resilience for me means that toughness is about staying focused on the goal, which is why we talk about our success stories, and that's what we're going to get to next. Because when you can stay focused on that goal, just like a runner, you know that, hey, I'm running a 10K and I'm only halfway through and I have no idea. I've not got any gas left in me.
Right.
But I know there's a finish line. I know I can get there. I've done it before. and I'm going to continue to just take it a step at a time, a step at a time. And you get to the finish line, you're like, how did I think I couldn't do this?
Well, it's that mental toughness. And again, we always have to remember too, Sheryl, that we have a choice. Are we going to win? Are we going to lose? It's our choice.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we've got an outstanding guest coming up.
Yeah.
But before that, we're going to talk about our Grand Slams. Be right back.
Are you having trouble with your VoIP phone system? Smart Office USA to the rescue. We're a local company here in DFW with real people, certified technicians, and we even come to your office to help you. Smart Office USA, representing the #1 VoIP phone system on the planet. And we are right here in DFW, ready to help you. Call us 214-272-0921 or go to www.smartofficeusa.com.
All right. It is Grand Slam time. One of my favorites, and I like that we do this earlier in the show because it kind of refreshes me. It pumps me back up. Can I go first?
You got it,
man. Because I'm like
You're
bucking at the gate.
Up.
I'm bucking at the gate because this is super great. Before we walked in, when you were working out the word resiliency in your office on the phone, I actually got a text message from a friend of mine. And she's in the benefit world, and Laura McLand. And she says, hey, Sheryl, I'm with a new company, and we have 1,000 employees, and we'd like to roll your services out to them next month.
Oh, my gosh.
And I said, oh, dang, I'm just so swamped. I said,
right.
Yes. But here's why this is such an important story. So I kind of jumped to the end of this, but here's what led up to it. I'm like, how did Laura and I get connected? And she is so lovely. We ended up just being really good friends. We could just talk the night away over a bottle of wine. And I had to go back through my emails to see where I met her. And it was a gentleman named Chuck Gifford who had moved from the north. And he'd come down here to Texas several years ago, and he wanted to start a networking group. Well, as I'm like, do you know Jeff? And you're like, no, I don't think so. So look him up, and doggone it, Chuck, we need to reconnect because this is the power of networking and following up and staying in contact with people, or at least I'm going to reconnect. So he's now CEO of the Local Business Network and co-author of Network Your Way to 100,000 and Beyond. Okay, Chuck, you're a coming up guest. All right,
let's hunt him down.
Yeah, so that was kind of like a double grand slam for me, right? So that Chuck years ago introduced me to Laura. Then COVID happened, we lost touch, and now I'm reminded that I need to reconnect with him. I got a new potential good deal.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Boom. Congrats. All right, congrats. Well, mine's kind of an unusual story this week because it's really not about people. Yeah. It's about the power of social media in working it. And I got the biggest lead of the year through somebody that found us through our website.
Wow.
And again, it just shows you that we need these different tools in our networking toolkit. We've got to have our good people involved. We've got to have our power team involved. But we got to have other tools. Yeah. And your social media, your website are really, really important. So again, is that by maintaining that, that's the important thing too, Sheryl, is the fact your marketing strategies. You just don't put it up and then, let it go. You got to paint your house every 3 years to keep it fresh. You got to have an oil change every 90 days.
What?
Well, no, every 5,000 miles. But we got to do it. And the same thing happens in our marketing strategy with our social media, our websites, refreshes. So yeah, I'm so pumped up because we do spend time, and you kind of wonder, is it working?
Yeah.
Are we getting a return on our investment here? But it's a big grand slam. It's a huge deal. 180 phones. Very, very excited.
Wow, well done you. But you stuck with it. What did Herb Kelleher say, Southwest Airlines, former Southwest Airlines? He said, I know 50% of my advertising works. I just don't know which 50%. Yeah. Right? So the best of the best even know that, hey, you're going to go through those doldrum times where you're like, is anything working? Yeah, right? Exactly. You just have to stick with it and keep painting that house. I love that. I love that. So this gal is just dynamite. dynamite. Love her story, which is why we're like, okay, resiliency, yes. So when we come back, we're going to talk to an amazing guest about resiliency. Rob, do you know what's coming up on 10/28?
A very important date. Everybody needs to mark it on their calendar because we're talking about the first annual inaugural Network Today live conference.
Woo! Everybody come, all things networking, 5 hours, full immersion, and you're going to see the ability to buy tickets right here on the website. So we want to see you there, 10/28, 10 to 3 at TK's in Addison. Welcome back. And I can't tell you what a thrill it was to know that we could get Jennifer Loehding on today because we just became friends.
Yeah.
How long have you known Jennifer?
I probably met Jennifer just about a year ago. I met her at through a networking partner of mine in a seminar, and she gave me, which is great for this topic today, is look at her book, Beat the Toughest Obstacles. And I love how she's got the cover where she's crossed out toughest, beat the obstacle. And she's got a great story to share with us, Sheryl.
That's right. It was a pretty easy decision when we're looking at the topic of resilience in networking to say, let's see, who's going to fit that? Jennifer. So Jennifer is resilient, right? When I heard about your story, and it's really quite a journey. And to bring you where you are now, and you're a mom and a wife and a podcaster and a business builder and a dream builder and a dream explorer and a journey person. I mean, it's just like, it's just crazy exciting, I'm sure, for you to see where you've been and where you are now.
Absolutely, yeah. I would say it's been a journey. It's been a long one, but it's been a exciting one. If I were going to sum it up, I would say it's been exciting. There's been a lot of growth and a lot of, hard moments, but I always feel like in those hard moments, that's when we have the greatest growth. And so I'm grateful for all of the places that I've been in the past that I've had to cross and all those tough moments that I've had to endure.
Yes. Well, and you came out of, let's give a little bit of background because it's going to allow everybody, for us to explore how resilience can parlay into longevity, right? And so you started in the corporate world.
Yeah, I did. And I was in network marketing for a very, very long time. Business is my background. And, I never really saw myself doing anything different. I figured I was going to be doing the same thing. I was vested in the company that I was working with, totally sold on it. And then in 2012, my life completely shifted upside down, and I was diagnosed with a rare nerve condition that came out of nowhere. Walked into the dentist, and a few months later, here I am with this massive nerve condition that totally blindsided me. And because of that, it really not only turned my life upside down, but it forced me to reevaluate where I was going, what I was doing, what I was investing my time in, how I was going to heal myself. And ultimately, I had to step down from that leadership position. And I was in the top 2% of a global cosmetic company. I'd been there for 15 years. That's all I had known, and really had to just step back and say, what am I going to do? I got to heal myself here. And so that's what I did. I went on a journey to heal myself. And that's really, I say it opened up the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Because it was one thing led to another. And so, it became not just anymore about how do I get better, but also how do I look at my life and see why am I having these patterns kind of continue to have it, or continue to keep happening in my life over and over and over. And so that's why we're here today.
Right. Well, hey, in all transparency, so Rob and I are talking before you walk into the room here, and he's like, Sheryl, I'm still struggling with resilience as a topic for networking. And I said, really? I see it so relevant. And then we began to explore the definition of resilience.
Yeah.
Right. So the definition of resilience would be the ability to recover quickly from illness, change, or misfortune. It's buoyancy. Buoyancy.
That's a good word.
Isn't that a great word?
Wow.
Yeah.
I know. So then the light bulbs went off, right, Rob?
Yeah.
It was like, yes, I totally see how that applies to networking.
Yeah.
Because we go through times and seasons in our life. We have disruptions. Maybe we're not getting the networking results that we're looking for. And we're just feeling, so maybe our business is starting to wane. So we're starting to wane. Every day feels like a chore. And you have to bounce back. How do you bounce back? How do you parlay your experience, your journey, into helping others in a networking capacity?
Well, I love this. And, and I have to always kind of preface this and say, networking when I started this was not my favorite thing to do I don't know how to put this. Like, it was really, really hard. And I always joke about this. I've talked about it with people before. My very first networking experience, I walked in and I beelined for the bar. I was like, I need a drink to do this because I was going to now have to talk to people. And I really didn't, in the beginning, know how to do that. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. But, I've learned along the way through networking that it's really one of the biggest things I heard recently was focus on being interested versus interesting. And so I really learned with this is that my job when I go into networking is to try to bring out the best in other people. How do I go into this and learn something from somebody? And so if I can walk into a space with a person and get to know them, even if it's on a small level, tell me what you do. Why do you enjoy what you do? What led you here? And it's funny because even when I meet people now, I always have to say to them kind of, as a little disclaimer, well, I'm going to probably ask you a lot of questions because I have a podcast and I like to interview people. So I'll get into this. Why are you doing this? What did you do before that? So I really think it's just about removing us out of the equation, right? Like if you can go into this with this idea that it's learning about other people, I think it really, that resilience to it just becomes kind of easy. You know what I mean? Because you're not looking at it about the shy part or me having to talk. It's really about how can I bring out the best in you and learn about you.
And so that rebuilds your confidence in yourself, right? And remember when we were talking to JC in the episode about discipline? And I'm like, what is your definition of discipline, JC, right? He has a military background. And so he said, curiosity.
Yeah.
And it's what you're talking about, right? So he said, if
Right.
you're more curious about other people, then it continues to be self-perpetuating, right? You can move yourself forward, or in your case, let's talk about being buoyant and pick yourself up out of something because now you're engaged in something other than yourself, than our belly buttons, right?
Yeah. Well, and to your point, I think because it's almost like when you think about exercising, like, right? A lot of people didn't grow up exercising, right? And then they go to try to exercise and it becomes this chore now, right? Like it becomes this idea of I have to go to the gym to exercise, and they resist, right? They subconsciously keep resisting. It's the same thing I think with discipline. When you start thinking that you have to do something versus now I have the opportunity, curiosity, I can learn from this. I think it changes kind of the dynamics of how you're working on something. So I had to really reevaluate what I'm doing with networking. It's not so much how many people can I talk to today? How many phone numbers and business cards can I walk away with? I go in more with this attitude of who am I going to meet today?
Yeah.
Like whose life is going to be changed? Who's going to change mine? And sometimes it's only one person I meet that day.
Sure.
And I was meant to meet that one person.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that.
That's a great attitude, and I think it's a good segue for me to I want to plug Jennifer's book here. Beat the Toughest Obstacles. Why don't you share with the audience a little bit about what made you write the book and why you needed to do it?
Yeah, well, I will say it was cathartic, at the time. It was actually an emotional release for me because when I, came out of that whole, I basically put that nerve condition into remission. After 4 years of struggling with it, I went on a holistic journey. I got off all my meds. I've been pain-free since with it. And so when I came out of that, I really was like, I have this knowledge. Like, what do I do with this, right? What do I do with this? But it wasn't so much about my diet. Yes, I did change the way I was living my life, eating and exercise. I became a marathon runner during that time, but it wasn't so much about that. It was more about like, what did I learn in this process of this? Like, what was this journey for me? And so I wrote it really just to talk about that journey that I went through. And I tell people, it's meant to inspire. The first chapter is kind of because you hear the story and it's like, you got to know that to know the background, right? But the next 6 chapters are really just the journey that I went through and what came out of that. So it ends on a good note. Ironically enough, I released it 2 weeks before we did the podcast. So I wasn't even talking at the podcast at that time. So it's kind of fun.
Awesome.
It was kind of fortuitous then, right?
Yeah.
That you were going to begin to tell your story behind the mic,
Right.
and not just with the pen.
Yep.
That's awesome. So networking is all about building a sphere of influence around us. And that's so important because none of us can do it alone. Were there people in your life, and you don't have to name names unless you want to, that really helped bring you out and build your resilience as you kind of buoyed back?
Yeah, well, and I actually think it started way back in 1997 when I went into network marketing because I was telling someone this story the other day about how in college, way back in the days, I was taking this public speaking class and I remember doing this speech on, I had these note cards and we couldn't read anything. We just could go off these note cards. And I did this presentation and I swore that day I would never talk in front of a group of people ever again. And I tell this story all the time now. People are like, no way. I'm like, yeah, there was a time.
Yeah, wait.
But my point to that is that when I went into this next space in my life, I had a lot of really great mentors. I mean, there's like so many to name. I mean, there's a lot. But it was little things that I had to do. It started off, I had to do these presentations. Then I moved up and I had to start leading, teams, and I had to start doing training. And so all of that kind of sort of kept leading me to the next phase. And so I feel like, yeah, when I started to move into networking, and I really only started doing that right before the pandemic. So probably around 2019 is when I started networking. It was like this whole big thing open for me. I'm like, wow, meeting people is kind of fun and awesome, right? Like you learn so much. And so, as I said earlier, it really just became a journey, like an environment where I could be like, hey, I can meet all these amazing people and learn about them, and they add value to my life. And so, yeah, all these mentors, I think, just sort of kind of were dropping and planting these seeds in my life that sort of just led me to the next step, to the next step, to the next step.
Oh, that's awesome. How did your family play a role in all of this?
I think that, they've been my inspiration. I would just say, the reason I do what I do, I go all the way back to my kids. I started in the space that I did. My oldest is now going to be 26. She was 18 months when I started. I was an aerobics instructor. I would take her to the gym with me, and I did what I did because I wanted to teach my kids to be independent, resilient, to go after the things they wanted to go after. And I knew that the type of personality that I have, the only way I can show that is to lead by example. It's an integrity thing.
Yeah.
More is caught than taught. So you can't.
Oh, that's good.
Expect people.
Now, with all these great experiences you've had with networking, tell us a little bit about some of the obstacles that you've come across, things that have sort of gotten you down because of networking, and how have you built up that resiliency to make you strong?
That's a good question, actually. Yes. Okay. So my biggest thing about networking is, when y'all all know this because you're big networkers, is when people pass cards out and there's nothing being developed. So I think for me, that would probably be the biggest hurdle, is because I really want to know people. Like, I'm not going to do business with somebody that I do not know, right? Like, I'm just not going to build that. I need to build that relationship. And so probably the biggest frustration I have is that I don't know that everybody always understands that. And you guys are doing such a great job, I think, in trying to get that message out. And when I first started, that would frustrate me a lot. I've done a lot of training, on adult development stages and all of that kind of stuff. And you can really start learning a lot about people, why they do what they do.
Yeah.
But I think, again, going back to that curiosity, my goal is not to change anybody. My goal is not to go out and teach somebody anything. It's really just to find those people in my circle that I feel like I can add value to their lives and they can add value to mine.
Well, that's great.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, that is, it's really superb because, again, you can get it outside of yourself. Mm-hmm. And when you get outside of yourself and be more interested in other people than trying to be interesting, then all of a sudden, like the birds start singing, the sky's bluer, the grass is greener.
Yeah.
Like, life just becomes more beautiful that way.
And people are interesting. I mean, you learn a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, you do. But it is fascinating that you had decades of network marketing, right? Yeah. And you took some speaking classes, and yet you were like, I got to go to a networking thing and talk to people.
Hey, you know what? It's never too late to learn, right? That's what I'm saying. The teacher arrives at the right time. You know?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, you need to catch our podcast because it's outstanding, and I always love anybody who helps inspire people to dream. And not just a dream, but to implement something, to follow through and to build that dream. And so that's what her podcast is all about. So the name of the podcast and where to find it?
Behind the Dreamers. And we are on YouTube. We're on iTunes. We're everywhere. Spotify. Yeah, we're everywhere.
You can find us. Are on?
I'm on
LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn, yes, Facebook, Instagram, under my name, Jennifer Loehding.
That's right. But we need to spell loading.
Oh, yes. Loe, H as in Harry, D as in dog, ING.
All right.
I've done that enough times.
That's right.
And nobody can ever pronounce my name or spell it.
No. What do they say? They're like,
it's funny because they'll be like, Loehding. I'm like, loading. It's just a long O. Loading.
It's
long O.
loading the truck.
Yeah,
or
there you go. Loading the boat, loading the truck, loading the kids.
That's right. That's right. So you need to connect with her. She's dynamite. So make sure you reach out on LinkedIn, listen to her podcast, chime in. The whole thing here is that we're building a network. So we want to hear from you. This isn't just a, plug in and unplug. So plug in, chime in, give us some feedback. We want to hear from you. And Jennifer, I just can't wait. There's going to be so much more that we get to talk about.
I know. You guys are fun. You're great. I love what you're doing.
I think next time maybe we should talk about obstacles.
There we go.
Maybe.
Beat the obstacles.
That's right. Maybe we're bringing you on for a beat the obstacles. So thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. It's been fun.
All right. So we'll see you back. How fun having Jennifer on. Oh my gosh. And I needed that infusion of her energy on this afternoon where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a little sleepy, but that's what networking's about, right? When you're tired, then somebody else brings you up.
Absolutely. And that's when, that's my first experience when I met her like nearly a year ago. She was on the stage speaking and she was such a dynamic speaker. It just pumped me up. It was like on a Saturday where I had just gotten up and it was like I was moving slow. And then after her, I'm just bouncing off the walls. It was so awesome. Yeah.
That's right. Well, and that's kind of why she's just perfect to talk about resilience, because she does lift people up.
Absolutely. And then to hear her story. And again, I'm going to plug her book again, because again, you get a feel the obstacles that she had to go through and to overcome. It's an amazing story.
Yeah, it is. And I want to know, when she's talking about her story, her journey of resilience, what really resonated with you that said, wow, that's so powerful. I need to share that with others who might be struggling right now.
To me, I think it's the hope and optimism of her inner strength.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can really relate to that. And again, her story is so powerful. Her struggle was so hard, but it's that hope, that inspiration, that inner strength that she talks about. That just pumps me up, energizes me.
Yeah, it does. I'll tell you what was surprising to me, and I know she's mentioned this, but I guess I really thought about it today when she talked about her situation that she went through. The illness was 4 years. Yeah. I mean, for a lot of people, that would just be such a beatdown that you're done. It's like the only thing I can do now is like be a greeter at Tom Thumb. I mean, truly.
Oh, absolutely. I get the flu for 5 days, and I feel like the end of the world. Yeah, 4 years, unbelievable.
Yeah. So the fact that she came back from that situation, not just striving but thriving into an atmosphere of exceptional abundance, right? She's really moved into that atmosphere of abundance around her.
And when you're around her and talk with her, you feel connected with her. Yeah. And it's like, good karma there, where you feel her energy comes inside you and builds you up. It's really powerful.
Yeah. So for me, I think one of the things that she really hit on that I think is so important for networkers, and that's, let's stop talking about ourselves. And it's easy to do. Right. It's easy to fall into that trap of, here's what I do, swap business cards and walk away, and then wonder why, and we were talking about this earlier today, you don't get any results from networking, right?
Right. But, I mean, her key phrase was, get interested, don't be interesting.
Right.
And that caught me.
That's right. So when you're engaged in the thought process of somebody else and really truly care about what they're saying, then that's a much more exciting situation. I always leave, when I invest in other people, I leave that situation energized, like re-energized, like
absolutely,
like rebuilt, re-edified. Might be a good term. There's this phrase that I heard early on in my sales career that's lived with me that really applies to this. So it kind of helped me differentiate who I align myself with and why I love people like Jennifer, like you. And that's that people fall into one of two categories. They're either an anchor on your tail or wind in your sail. And you need an anchor sometimes, right? You need somebody to kind of pull you back. But for the most part, you need that wind in your sail, because you're going to never move forward. And that's where I think the resiliency that Jennifer talked about through her journey in life.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of one of my favorite books, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, where he talks about, success through a positive mental attitude. And then, Jennifer personifies that.
Yes.
You know, every time I've been around her, again, I walk away feeling pumped up, energized, like you were saying.
That's right. And she's really intentional.
So well, she's real.
Yeah, I think resilience comes from intentionality. If that's a word, is that a real word? Yeah. So, but like really being intentional about whatever it is that you do, and making her kids the inspiration for her kind of bouncing back, that buoyancy to lift herself up into a situation of abundance at a difficult time.
Yeah,
was super great. So more conversations with Jennifer Loehding. Can't wait, and we'll be back. Let's face it, employees waste time on the company dime. Why? Life's complicated. We help keep the junk of life out of the workplace and in the hands of the experts. Empowered Advantage, empowering employees, giving businesses the advantage. Letter M as in magnificent, poweredadvantage.com. Isn't Jennifer outstanding?
Wow. You know what? I'm lucky, Sheryl, because I've got her book in the library, and I had opportunity to. I met Jennifer about a week ago as a speaker, and to hear her story was wow. I mean, what a great person to be with us on the show today.
Yeah, she's made my life better already. Like, she's just such a bright spot. So
bubbly.
That's right. But she's got so much mental capacity behind that, right? She's just not empty bubbles, right? There's really a lot of substance there. So certainly the definition of resilient. And here is a list. So I think you might enjoy this, and we're going to have it posted on the website. But there is I did a little search, and this is positivepsychology.com. And I put in my search, actually, resilience, maybe business networking. I think that's what I put in.
Okay.
And this article came up, I think this was April of 2021. And this has a list, several lists. This particular one is traits, qualities, and characteristics of the resilient person.
Boy.
And I know, and truly, it gave some really, really nice ones. But here, I really love this top one. So resilience is viewing change as a challenge or opportunity.
Love it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's how do we view that challenge? Is it an opportunity? Resilient people, I think, see it as an opportunity to get better, to learn, to use their resources, instead of just folding up and saying, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed, I can't do it. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of, again, being proactive, having that positive mental attitude. You know, I mean, you can let it defeat you. I mean, the glass is half full or half empty.
That's right.
It's your choice. But I like the way he worded that.
Yes. Another one down here. Did I lose my track? Oh, sense of humor was on there. So that was in their traits of somebody who's resilient, that they've got a sense of humor. I think that's good, because if you think about it, happy people are just better people, right? We're always better when we're happier.
Right.
So turn that frown upside down. That'll make you a little more resilient. And then I'm not going to go through the whole list. So again, you'll see it online. But at the bottom of this, I might have to take a look at this myself. The Connor Davidson Resilience Scale. So yeah, I want to dive into that a little more. Okay. But becoming more resilient and being mindful of that is one of my top to-dos for this year.
Well, today was the perfect day to be doing this, because it was disaster at the office today. In all seriousness, though, I mean, it was a big problem that we had happen to one of our customers. Again, out of our control, but we get hired to fix the problem.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things, Murphy's Law, and everywhere we turn, something we would do, it wouldn't work out. And so it got very, very frustrating, very stressful. You're counting on other people that aren't coming through for you. But thinking about this now, going, I've got to build up that resiliency, that toughness, really has made a big difference now. So I think I've gained some great experience and good words and wisdom here, Sheryl.
Well, maybe we could kind of leave on this note. And I know we have a couple of action items down here that I want to get to, but let me tell you what I saw that showed me that you are resilient, and maybe you can reciprocate, right? So here's what I saw. You were having a conversation that got a little loud. So the door closed. And then I know you came out and you still had to have more discussions, and you're still trying to problem solve. But then you walked it off, right? You walked it off, said, hey, I need to decompress. Give me a few minutes, Sheryl. Now, I'm not always good at doing that. I just dive, okay. And then I just walk right into, and I'm still carrying some of that junk around. But I think that brought you in here today fresh, right? You left that outside the door.
Right.
Oh, it reminds me of my first sales manager, Dennis Grancolis, in 94.5 country, KDNT FM. He told me that when you call on somebody and you walk into somebody's office and it was a terrible meeting, you just have a bad experience. When you walk out, he would imagine that doorway would actually pull all of the negativity back behind him, leave it in that office, and now he's a new person.
Oh, that's great.
So
that's a great.
It is a great
technique.
example of resiliency.
Yeah.
So, and is there anything about me that seems resilient? I'm putting you on the spot. You can think about it. You can text me later.
Yeah, I'll text you later.
That's right. All right. So 3 action items.
No, I'm going to go back. I got to remember.
Okay.
You've had a little bit of car trouble.
Yeah.
I've heard the frustration over the phone, but you immediately bounce back though. And I see that. I can hear the frustration, but it's like you're talking to yourself, you're working through it, and you're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. So you're very good at doing that. Very good.
Thank you. And I think sometimes it can come off as negative, but I'm trying to give an honest answer. You know what I mean? Instead of saying, how are you today? Oh, I'm great.
Right.
I'm trying to say for my people that I care about, truly how I'm feeling, right? But then without bringing everybody down. So thank you very much. So action items. We want to leave you these 3 things, so write these things down.
Well, I think I like the action item number 1 is build strong relationships. And again,
oh, that's good.
Having you here in the office today really kind of where you can sort of share the events that are going on. You can be authentic and transparent. You don't have to fake it with the big smile. And then you're not you're not going to be judged or whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a normal situation. So it was good to have you here in the office.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, and people, we make each other better, because I think it is kind of the natural law that we balance each other out, right? When you see your spouse or your partner, business partner, or a sibling or whatever having a bad day, it doesn't bring me down. It kind of makes me feel like I need to elevate myself to help bring them up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And I hope I think just naturally we're kind of built like that.
Yeah.
So relationships really important.
Yeah.
Number 2, learning from experience, which you did today.
Yes.
Now, resilience was a great subject. Go figure. And number 3 is,
stay positive. I mean, that's sometimes an overused word, but you know what? I really think in everything we do, we've got to be positive. We got to put on the happy face, make it authentic. Don't make it fake. Don't put on don't put on the fake smile.
Yeah.
I mean, work through it. But if you develop that attitude of being positive, again, you're making the choice. You're becoming stronger. You're believing in yourself.
Yeah.
It's positive.
Yeah. That's exactly right. So remember, the word of the week is elasticity. And I think
Love that word.
I do too. And I think that's what helps you stay positive. Know that you're not always going to be stretched to the nth degree. You are going to snap back. You'll be back in form soon. And you just have to remember that you're going to get there. So this was the episode. We've got another great one coming up next week. Love our guest. She is, I've made so many good friends, and she's right up there at the top of my list. And we're going to talk about something that's kind of old school, but we still need to pay attention to the details of how we communicate through it.
Absolutely.
Right.
So a great one.
And don't forget, if you've got topics, if you've got thoughts, good stories, please, we want to hear from you. This is about you, not us just yakking. So info@networktodaydfw.com. You see that down at the bottom. Make sure when you go to the homepage of the website, hit the subscribe button, because you'll get what? When you hit the subscribe button, you get your library.
You get the free. Blah blah blah. No, and the reason I
So you're
forgot about
resilient.
that.
You're being resilient.
I wanted to talk about the free resources that we have up there. So
Yeah.
that's what when you subscribe, you get our free resources, and you've got to check those out. There's great. You got the tech tools from Sheryl. You've got access to Rob's library, and then we have always a top 10, top 15 checklist of what we did discussed in our broadcast today. So make sure you do subscribe and check out the free resources.
That's right, because they'll be emailed to you weekly. And it's not just Rob's library. They're actually awesome reviews that you give. So that'll kind of help you make a decision on what book. So Network Today is the show. Did you have a good time today? Was it a good episode?
It was a tough word. It was a tough situation. But, man, I am walking out positive and resilient.
Awesome. All right. And I'm Sheryl Powers.
I'm Rob Bliss.
And we're here to take you from meeting people to
making money.
All right. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers. Boom.
This has been a Purple Cow production.